Hey, welcome back to the channel. I'm Paul with TCI Development. We have a tutorial video coming up for you on how to solder copper pipe. We're not going to get into the whole history of copper or the different types of copper pipe. Make sure you Google that and find out and make sure you're using the right one for the right application. We're going to get straight to the point, how to solder copper pipe. Hit the subscribe button, join the channel, hit the like button. Hopefully you can learn something by watching our projects that will help you with your project. Thanks for watching. Okay, this is a tutorial on how to solder copper pipe. The first thing you want to do if you just cut this pipe is take a deburring tool and deburr the pipe. This is the deburring tool right here. You don't want any burrs in the end if they were left over from your pipe cutter. Take a deburring tool, you put it in the end of the pipe, and you just turn it, and it deburrs it. Gets all the burrs off. You don't want burrs inside the line that could break off eventually and end up clogging something down the line. Next thing you want to do is clean any contaminants off of the pipe. Okay, so you don't want to touch it with your fingertips. If you did this right here, if you touch it, you just ruined it. That's contaminated because there's oils on your fingertips. If you don't believe me, look at your cell phone screen. There's oils on your fingertips. Don't touch the pipe. Clean the pipe off, get all the contaminants and all the oil off before you start soldering. You can use this. It's a standard steel wool. Okay, you can use steel wool. I like to use these. These are those Scotch-Brite green pads. These work really well, so I like to use these. You can also use rosin paper. This is like a sandpaper to clean off the pipe. This works really well. Whatever you want to use, just make sure you clean contaminants off the pipe. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take my Scotch-Brite and I'm going to scuff up the end of this pipe. Get it nice and clean, get all the oils off. Don't use a dirty Scotch-Brite, make sure you use a clean one. There it is, nice and clean. You see it left some rough grooves in it. That helps the solder adhere to the pipe. So the next thing you want to do is the same thing. You want to take here's another tool you can use for cleaning it. This is a wire brush tool. This fits 3/4, half inch, 3/4. I'm going to take this, even though this is a brand new 90-degree fitting, I'm going to go ahead and clean out the inside of this fitting with this wire brush tool. Okay, you never know, there could be oils left in there from the manufacturer. You just want to clean it out. Clean it real good. Okay, make sure it's nice and clean. Blow it out. See there, left some grooves on the inside. Nice for the, okay, I dropped it. So now we want to pick it up and do it again. Okay. Blow it out, make sure there's no dirt on the inside. Okay, your next step. Take a nice clean brush and you want to put some flux on this pipe. We use tinning flux. Here it is, lead-free tinning flux. You're going to just put a little bit on the brush and then put it on the pipe. You don't want to put a whole bunch on there. You want to go in about a half inch off the end. Just brush it on there, make sure it's covered, because if you don't have flux on the pipe, then your solder more than likely will not stick. So use flux. There you go. Next step, take flux, take the end of the fitting, put a little bit of flux in the end of the fitting. Okay, same thing. Just put a little flux on there, not a whole bunch. You know, you can't really visibly see it. You can barely see it on the pipe. Put the fitting on the pipe. There you go. Take any excess flux that you may see on there and just wipe it off. Okay, wipe off any flux. All right, now you're ready to solder. One thing to consider. We use MAP gas. Okay, this has a striker and it lights. We use MAP gas because MAP gas burns hotter. You know, there's one real way to solder pipe, and that's the way that works. So this works for us. This is what we've always used. It's a proven method. That's what we use. You want to heat from the fitting back toward the pipe. You do not want to heat this way. You want to heat from the fitting back toward the pipe. You don't want your flame right here. You want it a few inches back. And what you're going to do is heat the fitting first, get the fitting hotter, and what will happen is the fitting will be hotter than the pipe, and the capillary action will pull the solder, using the flux, will pull the solder into the fitting. So heat from here. It's okay if you want to sweep it back and forth and heat the pipe and then heat the fitting. Just heat from here, then heat the pipe a little. Use your solder. I like to take the solder. This is what we use right here. Okay, this is a lead-free solder. Lead-free solder, all right? I like to bend the end of the solder. If I'm soldering away from me, I like to solder from the backside here and come forward, all right? Just put a little loop in it, solder from the backside. You could touch the solder on there, see if it's melting yet. If it isn't melting, keep heating. Don't overheat your fitting because you could burn off the flux and then solder will not stick. So you want to touch it here. When you see it melting, pull the solder around to the front, and that's it. What will happen is the heat will pull the solder down to the bottom and suck it into the fitting using capillary action. No problem. Okay, so here we go. We're going to get started. It's going to take probably 10, 11 seconds to get this thing heated up to the proper temperature, and then it should melt the solder and pull it in, no problem. So here we go. Move the flame around a little, heat the pipe a little. You'll see the flux start to boil out the end. Move the flame a little. Okay, that looks pretty close. Not yet. That's it. Done. If you want to clean up that joint a little bit, you can take a little flux, right, and just clean it up. Just like that. Clean it up. Get all the excess solder off of there. Okay, what you do not want to do not take this very hot pipe, don't touch it with your hands, don't stick it in a bucket of cold water. Because when you take very hot pipe, you stick it in a bucket of cold water, that joint will crack, you'll go on vacation, and the day you leave, this pipe will start leaking and you'll come back and the ceiling will be caved in. Don't stick that in cold water. It's okay if you want to take a damp rag and wipe it off, you can do that. Okay, no problem, just a little bit. This rag is not damp, but you can wipe it off. What I like to do after I solder each joint, especially if it's on a hot water heater and it's exposed, we like to clean everything up. Okay, so we just clean it, make it look real nice and neat, nice and professional, right? Clean it all up, but there you go. Look at that solder joint. That's never gonna leak. That's how easy it is. You can do it, just practice, okay? If you're going to be soldering a lot of plumbing in the whole entire house, call a professional. But if this is something you want to fix yourself, this is how you do it. Look at that joint. That's never going to leak. Thanks for watching. Okay, we're going to go ahead and do one more just to make sure you're confident in how to solder pipe. Like I said before, very first thing you want to do, if you just cut the pipe, you want to take a deburring tool and you want to deburr the pipe. Okay, I've already deburred it, but what you do is you take the deburring tool on the end of the pipe and twist it, blow it out, gets all the burrs off the pipe. Okay, second thing you want to do, clean the pipe off. Make sure there's no contaminants, especially where you're going to put that fitting. I've said before, I like to use these Scotch-Brite cloths right here. These work real good. They really scuff up the pipe, get all the contaminants off. Make sure it's a clean cloth or a clean Scotch-Brite. You don't want anything with any oils on it. Or you can use steel wool. You can use steel wool if you want to. Okay, you can use rosin paper, just a sandpaper here. You sand the joint, okay, sand the, where the fitting's going to go. You can also use these wire brush tools. I'll go ahead and use this one right now. All right, just fits over it. They come in different sizes or whatever pipe you're using. Okay, so you want to clean it off. There it is. Okay, once you do that, you want to wipe all that sanded dust off of there. Okay, there's a nice clean joint. So the next thing you want to do, you want to take a nice clean brush and you want to apply flux to that joint. Okay, so here's what we use. We like to use tinning flux right here. There's other types of flux to use, but we like to use tinning flux. Okay, take a little bit of flux, put it on the pipe. You don't want to go way back here. You just want to put it where the fitting is going to go. Put it all the way around it. Make sure you have a nice even coat on there, a nice light coat. You don't need a whole bunch of it on there. Next thing you want to do, you want to take your wire brush tool. Even if you have a brand new fitting, you want to take a wire brush tool and you want to clean out your fitting. Okay. Might as well go ahead and do both sides because you're going to be soldering the whole pipe together, right? Clean it real good, get all the contaminants out. Nice scuffed up surface for the solder to stick to. Take a little bit of flux, okay? You want to put a little bit of flux on the inside of the pipe, on the inside of the fitting. Okay, there you go, a little bit of flux in there. Alrighty, place your fitting on your pipe. There it is. You want to take your rag, clean off any excess flux. Okay, if flux runs down the pipe, the solder is going to want to go where the flux is. Like I said, you're not trying to force your solder into the fitting. Capillary action from the heat will pull the solder into the fitting. So we're going to go ahead and solder this on here, okay? I said before, you want to heat from the fitting toward the pipe, from your fitting or whatever you're working on toward the pipe. It's okay if you want to move the flame back and forth. It's only going to take, this is 1/2 inch, it's going to take about 10, 11 seconds. Don't overheat the fitting. Don't hold your flame real close, right? Just a nice safe distance, 2-3 inches. Heat toward the fitting, toward the pipe, okay? Now, I have shorts on. Don't solder with shorts on, okay? I'm taking a big risk here. For one, I could burn myself, and for two, I could lose my sexy leg contract with GQ magazine if I burn these legs. So anyway, let's get back to it. Here we go. Put a little loop in the end of your solder. Solder from the back side right here. Come around to the front. What will happen is the solder will naturally flow to the bottom. Capillary action will pull it into the fitting. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. There it is. That's done. That's it. Okay. You saw that? The solder flowed around to the bottom. You can take a little bit of flux if you want. Clean the joint up. Okay. The solder flowed to the bottom. Capillary action pulled it into the fitting. There you go. That joint's done. That joint is not going to leak. Do not take this hot pipe and dip it in cold water, because if you do that, your joint will for sure crack and then you're going to have a leak. Okay? You take a rag, wipe everything off, make sure it's nice and clean. Okay? If it's exposed, like I said before, if it's exposed like on a hot water heater, we like to clean up the joint. You know, we make it nice and clean. But that's it. That's never going to leak. Thanks for watching. You can do it. Takes a little bit of practice. But a little bit of practice is a lot cheaper than calling a professional out. Now, if you have a whole house you need to solder, call out the professional. If you just want to fix your line and get back in business, there you go. You got it.